All right. Hello, YouTube. So today we're doing a full series review. It's going to be a quick one, and I might do longer ones for every book later. So, quick series review Elric of Melniboné by Michael Moorcock. These are actually the old DAW editions, I think from the 70s. They're just so beautiful. Quick review this series is worth your time if you like dark fantasy, if you're kind of into Dark Souls, Berserk, that kind of style. But this is also mandatory reading, in my opinion, at least the first book or the first two books, because this creates a reference point and an understanding for something that might be tropey for you reading it nowadays, but it still feels legit and true, and it just feels genuine in a way. If you're going to read anything from the series, I would say read Elric of Melniboné, the first book. It was actually not written first, though. 3 and 6, I think, were written first, and then the ones in between here. And then the author went back and wrote the first two books. And maybe that's why, in my opinion, they are much better, like way better. I started with the first book, Elric of Melniboné, just to make a short review here of the book. It is fantastic. It is one of my favorite fantasy stories of all time. It is very light. These books are written in a light way, kind of pulpy like Robert E. Howard, but much better in my opinion. But this book gets a 10 out of 10 from me, just to make it simple and clean. The second book, Sailor on the Seas of Fate, gets a 9 out of 10 for me. It's like 3 short stories that build the world and just make things interesting. And these build up to the rest of the story. I was heavily disappointed with the rest of the story. This gets a 6 out of 10 for me. Where to the White Wolf? This has an event that's super big that the entire story kind of builds up to. But just the way it was executed and the style of writing and just how things went and how it felt to read it, it was kind of just a disappointment for me, but still okay. And I still had some momentum when I read this. The Vanishing Tower is the 4th book in a series, and it's like a standalone story. It felt like a matinee movie. You know, when I was a kid, there was a TV channel called Hallmark, and they were like matinee movies on Sundays. Or they just had a very light feel to them, even if big epic things happened in them. They just felt like cheap, pulpy, but still entertaining enough to just waste your time on. A little brain rot, but still fun. So this is fun brain rot. I would give it a 7 out of 10. Still better than Where to the White Wolf. And the 5th book is Bane of the Black Sword. This one, if I remember correctly, is a collection of short stories, more in that direction. It was okay. It's a solid okay 7 out of 10. And Stormbringer, the final book, is, I think if this was rewritten, it would be an amazing book. But I did not enjoy reading this. It just felt like a summary that some 20-year-old dude wrote, and I think he was like 20 when he wrote this, so something like that. So, it's not well written, it's not well executed, it's a bit confusing, it's a bit weird to read, but still, all in all, when I put this together as a total experience, I still, and this is not a average score, I still give it an average score of 8 out of 10 because of how everything together as a package gives you a perspective. And this is so old, this was written such a long time ago, that I just have to give Elric praise and cred. I bought the Golanx editions first, and then I actually found all of these individual old editions and got them, and because I just love the series. Even if I was heavily disappointed by the rest of the series, I still love this series. It's dear to me. So reading recommendations, if you're not sure, start with the first book, Elric of Melniboné. You can't go wrong with this if you like the kind of genre. I love it. It's so good. I will reread this. I will never, never not have this as one of my all-time favorite stories. If you like it, continue with Sailor on the Seas of Fate. And if you like that, you might continue with the rest. If you read the entire main story, then I would say last priority that is it even worth reading, would be Fortress of the Pearl, which is a standalone story. It was written in the 90s. It's there in my bookshelf. It was kind of not worth the read. It was kind of meh. It was like a spin-off story. And then Revenge of the Rose is another one that's I never even completed it because it didn't compel me. I think he also wrote a new story, Michael Moorcock, new Elric story. So, but those are extras. I would definitely start with those two if you want to start with Elric. If you're not into reading books, would rather read comics, there's also an option there are some old comics that were written, I think, in the 90s, that basically summarize the main books. Those are kind of cool, but the artwork is up to you if you like the style. There's also a new comic series of Elric, but that's a reinterpretation of the story. I don't necessarily love the reinterpretation of the story, but I do love the artwork in those. So that was basically it. It's a quick review. I also want to highlight I have a lengthy, very old review of this book. So if you want to see what I looked like a couple of years ago, like 40 pounds extra of fat and a lot of beard, and just as a new fantasy reader, check it out. Link in the description. But otherwise, that's my short review of the story of this series of Elric of Melniboné by Michael Moorcock. It is a great reference point. I recommend everyone, if you're a fantasy fan, to at least read the first book. And let me know what you thought, or let me know what you think about Elric. And if I get enough interest here in the comments, I might do individual new reviews of every book. I might even reread it sometime soon. So let me know what you think. Like, subscribe, comment, and thank you for today.